Okay, so who's? I think Zishan, you were talking, and the live cut off.
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned about the initial engagement letter. So yeah, we've put together the letters in a draft format right now, and we've also put together a list of Chinese businesses that the university is heavily involved in. We have a lot of collaborations between universities specifically. So I'm not sure how exactly that will relate to the Chinese Communist Party specifically, but we do have a lot of relationships with universities. We even have a Chinese institute as well in China. And there's a lot of research in the health sector, in the energy sector, in the transport sector as well. And also members of the CPC have visited the University of Birmingham as well to create stronger links, especially industrial links as well, and educational links. So we are heavily involved with Chinese businesses and local governments as well. And there's a few articles online about the CPC on their visit to University of Birmingham. So yeah, but the thing is, last week you released a document with quite a few companies on there listed, which were collaborating specifically with the Chinese Communist Party. I couldn't find links specifically from my university with those companies, but there was one of them, which was I think it was a railway company that was on there. So one of my questions would be, how do the companies that Chinese companies that we do find, how do can we tie a link to the Chinese Communist Party as well with any company? Regardless whether we can or we can't, that we do have strong relationship with China as well as the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that's more or less the update from the brothers from the University of Birmingham in the UK.
All right, brilliant, mashallah. So just before I answer that question about the finding those companies, I just wanted to highlight for everybody watching the significance of these actions, inshallah. So firstly, the most populous city in terms of Muslims in the UK is Birmingham, and the premier university in Birmingham is the University of Birmingham. And they're in bed with the Chinese Communist Party, as Zishan has pointed out. Zishan is a speaker there, and he's actually putting together a team. What did you call it? The Uyghur Society of Birmingham?
Uyghur Society, but it's not finalized yet. We're still finalizing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few things I wanted to say before I just speak about the links of how a Chinese party we can show is working with the Communist Party. The first thing is, setting up a society like this in Birmingham is long overdue, simply because of how many Muslims they're there, and what I think 25% of Birmingham is Muslim, right?
Yeah,
and and Birmingham is, I think, the third largest city in the UK, or the second largest, something like this.
It's known as the second city of the UK.
Might as well raise the flag.
Birmingham, I mean, they call it Birmingham Shariff, right? So,
Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to keep in mind is that obviously there's something very important going on between the Communist Party and the University of Birmingham, because the Communist Party only visits universities physically if there is some significant relationship, because they don't actually, although they have relationships all across the UK with different universities, they don't actually visit them. It's not very common to visit them. So Imperial, you actually had Xi Jinping visit, which is, again, that doesn't happen. So setting up a society to simply tackle these things is very, very important. In terms of the other thing I was thinking about is, I believe there is a Chinese consulate in Birmingham, and together with the other contacts I have in Birmingham, and I have your number, so I can send you the other contacts. Once the lockdown is eased, we could do a protest, inshallah, outside the Chinese embassy in Birmingham. And Birmingham is a hotspot of other activists like Beg and others who Arsalan has also interviewed. So there's lots of people that could be collaborated with in terms of the activism that you want to do, inshallah. The other thing to keep in mind is that with the masajid in Birmingham, and there's masjids literally everywhere, one of the things that you guys could do as a society is go around to the different masajid. I have a few links as well, so I can give you those. I'm sure you already know people, but just give talks, even in Ramadan, just during Tarawih, just say, look, ask the Imam, is it okay if we just give a little reminder and just tell everybody, look, Alhamdulillah, we broke our fast, we're here reciting the Quran, but the Quran is being desecrated. The Muslims are being enslaved. There's modern day genocide going on. So, and Ramadan, people's emotions and their iman is high anyway. So it's a very good opportunity to utilize that. In terms of the relationships, the thing to keep in mind is this: there's no such thing as private enterprise in China. Every Chinese company that's working overseas, it has to share data with the Chinese Communist Party. It has to have a certain portion of the business is actually owned by the Chinese Communist Party. So there is no such thing as, it would be impossible for a Chinese company to operate and work with a British university unless this was sanctioned, signed off, and authorized directly by the Chinese Communist Party, right? So it's irrelevant whether those companies are on the list or not. That you find are working with the University of Birmingham. The University of Birmingham should not be working with any Chinese company, because all of these Chinese companies that come from mainland China are in bed with the Chinese communist state, right?
Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, you've hit a jackpot. You found some really good stuff. And also one other thing before I give it to Arsalan and Imazul in terms of their thoughts about this, is that find out if there's a Confucius Center at the University of Birmingham or at Aston University or the other universities, and target that, right? So set up a protest, set up a petition, start emailing saying, how is it possible that you have a Communist Party mouthpiece physically installed in the university when this goes totally against your policies, right? In terms of human rights, human dignity, forced labor, all of these types of things. But anyway, bro, well done. Alhamdulillah, there's been a massive progress in 1 week. And it shows why these lives are so important, right? Having these discussions is so important. And I'm sure people watching this all across the world are going to be, inspired to take action themselves as well, inshallah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's thanks for your efforts from last week as well. We took a lot of what you said from last week's live stream, and especially that document that Imazul shared. It was very, very useful.
MashaAllah.
Putting together the initial engagement letters. So we're just trying to form a team and speak to different societies and even different universities as well. Trying to engage with them and work together. But yeah, it's because of you guys. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Imazul, Arsalan, did you want to add to this?
Zishan, I just want to say that. Oh, Arsalan, you go first.
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
My bad. My connection was slightly slower, so I think that's why I cut you off. No. But Zishan, I just want to say, bro, mashallah, thank you so much. This is literally why we're doing it. It makes me so happy. And before I address your specific situation, Subur, I just want to say that there was one other school. It attended our first webinar. The first one we hosted with like 10 schools. And this week, alhamdulillah, they set up a teach-in and a protest the following day, and they raised about $1,000 in support for the Uyghurs. So, alhamdulillah, the momentum is slowly building. Zishan, in terms, I think, mashallah, you and your team have made amazing progress so far. But I think there are a couple of things that if you implement now, it can seriously enhance the efforts you're doing. One, I know you said a lot of the elected student representatives are still not aware of what is happening. The first thing I would recommend that you do is host a teach-in, a virtual teach-in. And so it literally be a virtual webinar, keep it 1 hour. And, if you have access to someone, a Uyghur person, if Arsalan is available, Arsalan would be perfect. But literally someone that can come kind of describe what is happening, that would be amazing. And you can host it this week and invite all those elected representatives, invite all those student organizations that you want to collaborate with. That 1 hour session will get them up to date, and it will raise enough of an issue for them to be like, okay, you know what, this is a cause for students to rise up against. So that's one, and I think you and your team should try organizing that as soon as possible. And our team will be more than willing to attend and help, inshallah. Second is the letter that you guys draft up. Please go ahead and send it to me. I'll look it over, because we have had, alhamdulillah, immense success with the letters that we've been drafting for universities here. I would love to look it over and make sure that we're not compromising on anything that we could be adding into that letter. And the other thing, I know you brought up a question. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Keep going.
The other thing, I know you had a question about how to address it to or address the crisis to people that may not necessarily be convinced as to what is happening. In addition to what Arslan was saying about following the reports by Uyghur Human Rights Project and following the content by Radio Free Asia, is there's another think tank that's based out of Washington, D.C. They're called Newsline Institute for Strategy and Policy. I believe on March 8th, they released a whole report that goes through the entire Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, and they compiled the data that's been released from the region so far to prove how every criteria on that article of that Genocide Convention has been met. And so there's like an overwhelming amount of evidence to how there's no longer any debate about what's happening in China and how that does not meet the criteria of genocide.
Maz, I want you to thought on something, right? So, you know, our university is heavily involved in China, right? So, you know, we've spoke to a few people, and it's like, you know, we want to make a difference, but then, like, obviously we're going to make demands of what we're requesting from the university, right?
Right.
But we're talking about hundreds of millions of pounds worth of investment, right? How realistic is it to demand complete ties cut from China, the Chinese Communist Party? And how have you just gone with a direct approach, or have you taken steps on the way there?
Okay, that's an excellent question. And I think that is a point, honestly, where a lot of student movements can get derailed if they're not careful. So the first thing you want to understand is the primary goal behind us as students organizing for this matter is less about the economic decision that is made and more about the attention and our collective power coming together, right? The economic policy and all the incentives, they will come at their own pace, and you know, in order for this matter to be addressed, they have to be dealt with eventually. But our primary goal as students is to gather the student body for one purpose, and that is to bring attention to this genocide and make sure the university is paying attention to it, right? So don't measure your success by the ultimate economic ties being cut, but measure your success by how many people you can rally and how big of a matter you can make this out to be in front of the university leadership, right? So that's one. The second thing, I know I'm not familiar with the exact details of your institution and all of its ties, right? But it seems like they're very well connected to the nation. So I think, from my experience at least, you know, because even in my institution, there are different ways that they're connected to Chinese companies. So instead of kind of distributing yourself to a number of different goals, pick one big target, preferably a target that is familiar with most of the student bodies, a target that is well known enough on campus for it to garner enough attention, and hone in on that one target. Naturally, if you find success with that one target, everything else will come into loop as well. But I think you'll have the best chances of rallying everyone together if you focus on one particular target.
But in terms of the request or the demands, we just go for, or we put all our demands out there straight away and try to get as many people behind that as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go for all of it. If they have like a multi-million-dollar deal with the Chinese institute that is complicit with the genocide, don't even compromise saying we want a primary or like a small compromise. No, call for a complete cut off. You know, the worst that can happen is what? You bring attention to this and your university gets exposed, right? That's still a win. But yeah, do not compromise on your demands.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. I just need to pray, but Ali's going to host while I'm praying, and then we just, if you can give a few words as well. I'm listening so far. What's
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. How are you guys?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Also, Mazul, I want to ask about the timing of all of this as well, right? So, so right now as well within the university, there's exams coming up, and there's a change of the committee within the Guild of Students or the union. So, is there a specific time, like we should wait, or do you reckon we should just go all out straight as soon as possible in terms of getting on with campaigns and engaging with the university and the Guild of Students specifically?
Exams are this week?
They're coming over the next few weeks and month, essentially.
Okay. The way I would, the first idea that comes to mind is I would hold 2 teach-ins, right? And the virtual webinars I was talking to you about. One would be for the new student leaders that are coming in, right? Or even like the old ones, whoever will attend. And I would host that sooner than later. Then the other one I would host for the larger student body of all the clubs and organizations that you think will be sharing the same agenda as you. Host that after exams, so your students will have time and you'll have a higher rate of attendance. But the other one you want to set in motion, especially if it's if it involves the student leaders that are incoming.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Can you guys just give me an update, for example, on what exactly the topic is around today? Because I just came in now.
So we host these. This is our second session, but we're hosting these sessions every Saturday to kind of establish a relationship with all the universities and student bodies that we have been meeting with through our webinars. And it's really it comes up with a site format. Arslan gives us an update about like what's been happening, the recent developments on the Uyghur genocide issue. But we largely hold a forum where students from different institutions can come together, ask their questions about, and also inform us of the developments that are happening about the activism efforts on their end. And so we try to kind of guide those directions and build a larger movement, inshallah.
Where you're in America?
Yes, I'm a medical student out in Washington D.C. in America. Yes.
Okay, and you go to university, or you working?
No, so I am still associated with my university. I'll be graduating soon, inshallah. But alhamdulillah, like I'm pretty well connected with the schools around here. So we've been organizing on our end in the United States, and we're with Sabur. We're now working with UK schools as well.
How does China, like, what does China do with the universities? Like, what is it, their connections, like with universities? Is it more technology? What is it?
So it varies per institution, right? So a lot of institutions, and I know our institution have been getting a little more strict about this, but they'll have economic ties. So we have things called endowment funds, right? And that's how the university invests a lot of its money to create more profit for the institution itself. And sometimes, or a lot of time, these funds will be gaining profits from either Chinese companies outright, or they'll be gaining profits from companies that are proven to be getting things like cotton from the Xinjiang region, right? So that's one. The second thing is a lot of our institutions, especially the big name ones that we have, like say Harvard, Yale, they have relationships with China where China will be able to send students to attend our institution. So those are another level of connection that they also have. But then beyond that, I know Sabur was talking about how there's like Confucius Institutes, but we also have these international Chinese study abroad programs. And so it really depends from institution to institution, but the larger message that we can kind of rally around is that exploring the connections that your institution has with the government of China and China itself, and seeing that which ones are worthy enough to rally around and use that to bring attention to the issue at hand.
Imaz, I want to ask, when you wrote to the universities in America, did you quote any? Which policies did you quote from the university in terms of their ethics policies or like anything to do with human rights violations and things like that? Which were the most which ones were the best policies to quote in support of the cause?
Mm-hmm. So most of our efforts right now has been focused on getting student bodies at different institutions to kind of come up with their own letters and rally around with given their specific circumstances, right? But I can tell you what we've been doing at my institution. So alhamdulillah, yesterday we drafted a letter combined with our medical school and the law school, right? And we're drafting a letter, and I'm sure you saw it on the document that we shared last week, which was about the divestment campaign. And our call to our university's leadership was that we know that there's an endowment fund. We know that there are multiple reports saying there are these X amount of companies that are linked to the oppressive Chinese government right now. And we as students are demanding that our institution stands on the right side of history by divesting away from these companies, right? So that was our main premise. And to answer your question specifically, what we drew upon is we drew upon our institution's history and legacy, because the Howard University, the university I attend, is a predominantly African-American institution. So especially in the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, we were very much involved in the civil rights movement, all the legal issues around obtaining proper equality and rights for African-American people. So we have a large legacy that's already in store for us to draw upon. That, okay, we've done it before. Now is another chance for us to stand on the right side of history and make sure that we are not complying with what is happening to our Uyghur brothers and sisters. So that was one. But even beyond that, if you search up your university's mission statement, their vision, and the principles that it abides by, whatever fits, make sure to include that in the letter. Because I think I think you've already understood this part, but I'll just say it again for any of the other students that are watching, is the first approach you want to try, and this is, I guess, is in life in general, but you want to try the collaborative approach. Instead of just outright attacking your institution, because at the end of the day, you're a student there, you're paying to be there, right? Try getting them on the same team as you, right? So us using their own principles, their own visions, and their own mission statements, and writing that in with that letter, and then gathering all your student bodies to endorse that letter, and then presenting that letter to the leadership. That tells them that, okay, these students are trying to work with us. You know what? And it also, it doesn't even need to be spoken. The university leadership naturally starts to feel the pressure that, okay, we need to answer these students, because one, it's not just one student presenting this, it's multiple organizations. Especially if that letter you came up with, Zishan, if you can get multiple orgs to kind of like put their logo on it or sign off on it, then that becomes a petition now. Yeah. And so then the university leadership is like, okay, if we don't respond to this in a meaningful manner, then what can happen is that this will blow up into a much larger issue, and this can bring a negative reputation to our institution. And that's what we're trying to capitalize on.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah.
Also, okay, so what type of initial response can we expect from the university once we make the issue clear and highlight the issue, highlight the problematic relationships with the Communist Party and the genocide that they're doing? What can we expect as an initial response, and where could we take it from there, just so we have something to prepare for?
I'll be completely honest with you. The first response you should expect is, your message being ignored, You know, that is the response. And Arslan probably has experience with this too, you know, like especially with the things you guys do with your organization when you're reaching out to these journalists. A lot of times, you know, your response being ignored or your request for more information will be ignored, you know, so kind of expect that. But your fight will be on two fronts. One, whatever information that you come up with, whatever you're working on, make sure that it's constantly being there's a constant like flow of information between you and the rest of the student body. Whoever signs up for your cause, make sure you have, at least on a weekly basis, make sure you are communicating with them so that that momentum is always building. That should never stop, right? The students should always be getting more and more energized. Then be in constant contact with multiple people in your student leadership. I know in our American University, we have positions called Board of Trustees, the Chief Financial Officer, the President of the universities. So it's never just one person you're contact. Contact everyone that you can, even including secretaries, you know, because secretaries, at least here, they hold a lot of power to, in order for you to get contact with people. And constantly send them with or constantly be sending content and letters to them, reminding them, okay, this is what these are our demands, this is what we're asking for from you as the leader of our institution. And but say worst case scenario that you don't get a response, right? It's been 1 month, it's been 2 months, and you're not getting anywhere, no productive response from any of the university leadership, right? So go back to that document and you'll see that there is a clause there that if you're not getting any productive response from your university leadership, then you go ahead and you start a what are they hiding campaign, right? And what are they hiding campaign is you're not accusing your university leadership of anything, but you're raising attention to the fact that they are not willing to work with you, collaborate with you on an issue that is really disastrous and is happening right now. So, and that's where all the other tactics come in. You know, your teach-ins, your student organizations, you know, rallying for a protest, your block-ins, your virtual awareness events, your social media outreach events, and even like, and it further builds up your divestment campaign attention as well. So there, like, brother, I'll be honest with you. As soon as you get started on this path, there's no way for you to lose, because the goal here is to increase awareness. The goal here is to make sure the students are involved and they're using their power for this cause. And so regardless of how your university responds, you have ways to proceed and keep the ball moving.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What I'll do is I'll obviously make first contact with the university and the guild of students, and then we can just gauge the type of response that we're going to get, and then just take it from there. And then
absolutely
keep in contact with everyone and try to discuss the best way forward. Inshallah.
Yeah, and Subur just texted me your number, so I'll definitely make sure to reach out to you as well.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Jazakallah khair, Zishan, and I'll also send you the other contacts I have in Birmingham. Muhammad Habib, he was supposed to be here today. I'm not sure why he didn't join, but he has all of our data, and so does, I think, Imazul. I think you have access as well. So all of we do have some entries from Birmingham, so I can send them to you, and you can coordinate the activities in Birmingham, inshallah. But Jazakallah khair for joining us this week.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
Really great stuff. You made us very happy with it.
Absolutely.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you again.
All righty.
I was trying to share my screen.
Yes, sure. Let me see. Yep, there you are.
Yes, I just went to the University of Birmingham. That's the University of Birmingham website, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and basically just going through the China Institute, it literally says what it does. Literally, and look at these activities. Tell me what's wrong or what's just. I'll just read them out to you. Right, it literally says our activities: encouraging collaborative research across campuses and nations. Right, so what they call collaborating means stealing your research. Facilitating education partnerships with Chinese partners. And what they mean here is, right, it's not just students. If you look at the beginning of the About page, it says the China Institute is a supportive network for students, academics, commercial partners, and those interested in creating relationships with Chinese partners. Meaning that's a very open statement. That could mean companies, that could mean technology institutes, and you'll see with the reference to technology. Look at this: coordinating seminars, lecture tours, and technology transfers. It's in black and white. Raising the profile of work undertaken in China and the UK, hosting incoming visits from Chinese colleagues and partners, providing advice, guidance, and support for academics and university of staff traveling to China, promoting the University of Birmingham's engagements with China. So that's the China Institute. So that's just some of the relationship that China Institute has specifically with Birmingham University. And Birmingham University has to ask itself, why are they working with, as we mentioned, all Chinese companies, technology firms are connected to the CCP who are committing a genocide? Why are they having this connection with a genocidal government?
Zisha,
right?
I think this is gold for you and your letter, bro. If you like literally focus it on just this page that Arsalan's showing, I think that's enough to get started.
Yeah, I've seen these pages, and I've seen the annual report as well. From there's a China Institute annual report as well, which highlights specific companies. I've had a look at that as well. So I'm aware of these type of publications. Even pictures of members of senior leadership with members of the Chinese Communist Party as well, like shaking hands in deals and things like that. So I'll forward you the letter, Amazon, and then we can take it from there. And what I'll also do is I'll at the bottom of the letter I'll post some links or sources that I've referenced within the document itself. So if you want to, you can actually go through the sources as well, just in case I've overlooked anything.
Yeah, Imazul, you have access to our database, so the Birmingham entries, if you can just share them with Zishan, that would be great.
Okay, I can do that.
There's a Birmingham in America, so you're gonna have to make sure it's not it's not the same. But I'm really happy with this Birmingham thing, Ali. We could do a protest outside the this China Institute. I mean, Birmingham has a huge Muslim population. In Birmingham, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind. Well, I like this stuff. I like meeting people in person, like Tommy Robinson. So to me, it's in my nature to go. I prefer that. Well, I prefer going in person, like talking to them. I don't really like this camera thing. I'm fed up since the lockdown. All I'm doing is talking to the camera. I want to meet real people and crush some. You know that Muhammad is crush the opponent. Crush the opponent.
Ali, you're coming to the University of Birmingham, yeah?
Yeah. I like Birmingham actually.
If you set up a protest, we can come down, inshallah.
I was going to go to the Chinese embassy. I was thinking like about 8-9 months ago, I was going to visit the Indian and Chinese embassy. I had placards ready printed, but they were closed. I couldn't go. Someone did tell me like if you go to the embassy, it's dangerous because they can get rid of you. I didn't know that. It's like a part of the they can I didn't know that. But maybe that was a sign from Allah, But yeah,
you should have learned from what happened in Turkey.
Yeah, I know. That's why, bro. I thought finish me, you won't see me again.
There'll be a Ali Iskandar kebab.
Yeah,
coming out.
Yeah, I don't mind, man. Let's go. Well, I don't mind. I'm ragga, bro. I'll go there with the banners. I'll start shouting, brother.
So Ali, you had that protest with the Jewish community.
Yeah.
So can you give us some? Yeah, because that can help Zishan see how you can work. Because Zishan also asked about working with other groups. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how the Jewish community is there, the Orthodox Jewish community, but I think this is quite close to them. Well, depends who. Like there were these two individuals, to be honest. One of them is a Jewish. He's not. I wouldn't say he's quite Orthodox. He's more liberal Jew, but he was joining him. It was quite interesting. This other guy was an Orthodox Jew, and yeah, they were. I met them at Speaker's Corner, and then from there he came to our store on Salam Corner. We've done a video. He raised awareness. It was quite interesting because he was there with a placard. And then I learned that he got in contact with me and he said that they're doing that every Wednesday or Friday. It's quite interesting. They do actually I think they do on Friday just before sunset when the Sabbath kicks in, I think.
Yeah.
And these guys were just like, wow. And can you imagine it's like someone dedicating just before Jummah. So I found it very inspirational, And like I said before, I thought the least I can do is go and record what they're doing, So even though I was seen like I'm there, but the credit goes to them because I just recorded what they were doing. I was inspired what they were doing. And it was good. I'd done a little bit of clickbait, as usual, my halal baits. I did Jewish Muslim experiment and it got over 100,000 views. That's the only way we can decide to do it. If I said, Jewish Muslim, Uyghur China. No one's going to watch it, sadly. So yeah, I do a little twist to that. But yeah, it was interesting. And the other one was in the Volkswagen showroom on the A406. So I went there as well. And yeah, it's just
that's just here, right?
Yeah, it's not, on the other side.
Yeah,
on the other side, near Wood Green. So yeah, we need to do stuff like this. I believe in this kind of stuff. It's easy to sit behind a camera. There's nothing wrong with that. But I like to do things in person, you know. So yeah, I don't mind come Birmingham. And yeah, I like the food. Birmingham's nice. We can go eat after, but yeah, we can go in. I don't mind, wallah. I don't mind trespassing.
So Zishan, if you set it up, I mean, it's probably going to be after Ramadan now.
Yeah.
12th of April, the lockdown's easing, but I don't think protests are going to be allowed until late in the summer. And one of the advices that I got many months ago, because I was thinking about doing the same sort of protest stuff, is that brothers who have a lot of experience in terms of doing protests in the UK, they advised against it because they said it's going to backfire, because although you're protesting a good cause, by breaking the lockdown, you're actually getting involved in another political issue, which is very, I mean, it's just going to totally discredit. And we have to remember that when it comes to the Uyghur issue, we don't want to do anything to damage the cause, the reputation, right? The reputation of the cause. So that's why I decided not to do it. But inshallah, when the lockdown eases, we'll both come down.
Yeah.
Ali can drive.
Anytime.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Zishan.
Well, yeah.
So you can stay on, and we'll just go to the other guests if you want, or if you want, you can. You know, it's up to you. So we'll go to Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum, Abdullah. Welcome to Defend the Uyghurs live. Let us know your thoughts on what you've been hearing so far.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I've thought of, like, your ideas are good, but when it comes to like protesting, in my opinion, I mean, protesting, the only thing is, like, you know how you protest and like everyone gets together and there's like a big crowd, right? So like there could be like you know, like there could be like weird people who just come to the protests to cause chaos. You know what I mean? Like they come to the chaos and say something that triggers someone, or they defend the CCP, and then people get mad and they start attacking, and a chaos could start like that. So that's the only thing I'd say about a protest in regard.
Now, when you say protest, Aki, we're not talking about telling large amounts of people to come there. I think protest can be done in the context. We just call it protest because that's the definition. It's just me and Sabur could be there with just a placard, or just going there and speaking to the officials. That's it. It doesn't. We're not talking about telling people like come 50, 100 of us. I don't think that'd be wise, because you might have a bit, like you said, there might be some people who are a bit, you know, they got anger issues. So yeah, definitely. So we're talking about me and Sabur and maybe one more person, just raising awareness. People walking past having a placard, or trying to go and speak to certain officials, and having that on camera. I think will be quite powerful.
Yeah, and just to add, Abdullah, you raised a point which made me think about something. I mean, later on when the lockdown eases, we obviously do need to set up civil protests of large numbers, inshallah. However, there's something for everybody to know. And Zishan, I'm glad you're here as well, so we can just clear this point. You see, what it is with the Chinese Communist Party is they want to paint our Uyghur brothers and sisters as extremists, right? And the worst possible thing that we could do is basically feed into that narrative, right? So, for example, even when we're talking about this activism, you know, fighting the CCP and this type of stuff, we're obviously talking about that within the legal framework. It would be the most amazing thing for the Chinese Communist Party if there was an idiot amongst the Muslim community who started saying things which fitted their narrative, that you see the Uyghurs are extreme, their supporters are extreme, they want an Islamic state, look, they're holding up the black flag with the Shahada. That's what they want, which is why we need to be very intelligent the way that we articulate ourselves, the way that we speak about this issue, because believe it or not, you could simply one bad apple could derail the image, right? So this is why it's very important, and I believe it's in the interest of the Chinese Communist Party to do this. So they might have their own false flags, they might have their own, you know, people who are inside the movement who are pretending they're with us, but then, you know, they just start coming out with extreme things. So yeah, we definitely want to avoid those sort of characters. And you know, the worst possible thing is we're trying to highlight a genocide, highlight an atrocity. We're on the right side of history. But if we do, or amongst us, somebody does an action which is seen as xenophobic or anti-Asian, or feeding into the narrative that we're extremists, then not only have we damaged the cause, damaged reputation, harmed the Uyghurs themselves, but we're also going to drive a wedge between us and the Western liberals, who are actually at the forefront as well of this, right? And we have to understand that they've been vocal about this for a lot longer than the Muslims, and they've done a lot more work than us. And the last thing we could do is basically jeopardize our relationship with other non-Muslim groups who are at the forefront of this. Like Ali said, the Jewish movement, which is spreading all across the world, because they've been through the Holocaust and they're seeing something similar happening in East Turkestan. Of course, not at the same level, but it's getting there. They're just doing it in a lot more of a slow sort of level. So Jazakallah khair for that, Abdullah. I'm going to go to Yusuf Al-Misri. Welcome to Defend the Uyghurs Live. Let us know your thoughts of what you've been hearing so far.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yeah, I've been really inspired by what I'm hearing so far. I'm actually I live in New York. I'm not there right now, so that's really limited what I could do at my university. But I've been coming to these talks, and yeah, I'm really inspired, and I've been really taking notes. And I thought maybe I could present a different angle of how students could spread awareness at their universities. I tried it out myself, and it had a positive effect, even though it was a very small thing.
Bismillah. Great. That's what these sessions are for. Yeah, we want to hear your ideas, inshallah.
So in one of my classes, it's a theater class, and we had to take a modern take on a production that we watched, right? So one of the productions that we watched in class, it had to do with like just struggle for your family and like the whole morality thing, right? And I said that I'd do like a broad representation of that professor in one of your earlier live streams, Dr. Burhan Saiti, I believe his name was.
Yes.
Yeah, so I said I would do representation of him in the production, and I justified it using like concepts within theater, with this concept called applied theater, and that's basically like using theater as a vehicle to drive social change. And I basically just justified it briefly in the beginning of my essay, and then I just went on with the rest of the prompt. And I thought, like, I had some irrational fear that it wouldn't work out, but I actually got a 10 out of 10, and the teacher really liked it. So I thought maybe I could share that with other students as well, who are wondering how can they spread awareness.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I think that's one, incredibly creative, but two, I think you're absolutely right, incredibly impactful. And you probably access an audience that would not necessarily be accessible through other routes. So, mashallah, brother, that's awesome.
And that's what these live streams are for, these ideas, so that everybody can benefit from them.
Yeah, I really believe that I'm in using the Black Lives Matter movement as a benchmark, like, because we've really seen them in the last year, and we've seen what they've done. And I remember last semester around August or early October, there was this online campaign amongst professors in America to do something called like a Scholar Out Day, where basically all they did was just talk about Black Lives Matter and police brutality. And I had two professors that took part of that. And I thought maybe if we could get that much traction from professors on this topic, that would be great as well.
Yeah. When it comes to hashtags, there's an interesting hashtag which I saw online, which is Uyghur Lives Matter, and I think that's a really powerful narrative to use, because what we're really speaking about is, racism is obviously a huge issue, which people have different ideas on what works, what doesn't work. But one thing we can definitely unite upon is that regardless of strategies, we all agree on the problem, that racism is not acceptable. Now, when we speak about racism, we usually think of for example, racism against black people, racism against currently like Asian people. However, racism, obviously, if we look back at some of the most atrocious versions of it, were not only the sort of contemporary racism against black people and against Asian people currently in America, but also what happened against the Jewish people. And likewise, what's happening to the Uyghurs is nothing less than racial extermination, because the Han Chinese, they see themselves as superior. In fact, some Chinese Communist Party officials in the past have spoken about what they've termed Han chauvinism, right? This idea that Hans are superior to others, not only against the Uyghurs, but also against the Mongolians and the Tibetans and other ethnic groups like the Kazakhs. So, you know, there is this massive racism problem as well, because, you know, in a way, like imagine South Africa, right? So in South Africa, we had the apartheid, we had a population of white people who were brought into Africa, and some amongst them were racist towards the black people, although they are in their country, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening in Chinese occupied East Turkestan. The businesses, the land, the deals, the cotton industry, the minerals, everything is being controlled by the Han Chinese, but they're invaders, and they're trying to change the demographic of the area, because that's a historic Muslim area which goes back to, you know, 958. Sultan Satuk Burga Khan accepted Islam. We're talking about over 1,000 years ago, and that entire region, which is a Muslim Turkic region, is now almost 50% Han Chinese, and these are all foreigners. They're not indigenous to the area, and they are basically using up the resources of the area. And the Uyghurs are actually quite poor in their own homeland. And this is, you know, no different really to the racial extermination which the Nazis tried to carry out. The only difference is that the Nazis had the cover of the lack of media coverage, which is why Auschwitz and all these camps were very far away. Even the average German citizen didn't know about these camps. Yet with Chinese occupied East Turkestan, they know that it's very difficult to control information. So what they're doing is they're basically launching a slow genocide, right? So for example, rather than just killing Uyghur women, they're forcing the Uyghur women to marry Han Chinese men, right? And instead of, for example, just killing the children, they're taking the children, taking away their language, taking away their religion, taking them away from their parents, raising them up with Han Chinese. It's the same thing.
They're killing them spiritually. They're spiritual genocide, and there is the physical element as well. But I think that's what they're doing, and I think that's what they realize that in the 21st century they can't do that. You know, they realize that okay, we can't do this because, you know, everyone's got cameras, you know, phones. So the thing is, they're obviously controlling and trying to brainwash and using other strategic methods to carry out what they're doing. They want the same results, you know, and that's more dangerous, to be honest. If you think about it, if you kill someone, you know, and that's going to get media attention, you know. But if you're there talking about education camps, you know, it's not. It doesn't sound as bad, you know. Like, oh no, we haven't. Who have we killed? Who we killed? Oh, we haven't. Okay, you know. But the thing is, you're spiritually killing them. And that is, you know, like if these kids are brainwashed to that, you know, what do you think they're going to be teaching their kids? You know, they're going to forget about their culture. And I think that's what they're doing. They're spiritually committing a genocide.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to
I was wondering where you were.
Bro, I sent you a WhatsApp before. Something came up suddenly, and I told you that I might be an hour late.
Sorry, I didn't check it. Jazakallah khair for joining us. This is Muhammad Habib. Maybe he joined you in the live stream before. He's been on this live stream a few times. Okay. So he's the executive administrator for Uyghur Freedom Organization. He does all of our admin stuff. So Muhammad Habib, we've been speaking about obviously the Uyghur genocide and speaking about student activism. Heard some really good news from the University of Birmingham. MashaAllah, Zishan. I'm not sure if you actually. I'm going to give you Zishan's number, and if you can share with him any information about Birmingham in terms of our contacts. I gave it to Mazel, but I'll give it to you because you've got all the stuff. So I'm going to go to our next guest, inshallah, because quite a few people are trying to join us. So, sake of Allah, welcome to defend the Uyghurs. Let us know your thoughts. Okay, you're asking us to hold on. No problem. So we will go to bring your proof. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Defend the Uyghurs. Let us know your thoughts.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thanks for allowing me to join, brothers. What I'm from the discussion that I'm seeing right now is I think the best thing we can do is not doing protests. I don't mean like protests going to the street or even sending message to the universities. I think the better thing we can do is government interference. Muslim governments should be more focused on intervening, like completely boycotting Chinese products, completely boycott French products, and I don't think even individual boycotting of French product can help at all. I work in a company where, I mean, for people who say that Muslims who go to Hajj can be very religious, the CEO of my company actually went to Hajj, and one of the biggest companies that you have a contract with is an electric company that is located in France. So I think individual or even company-wide boycott of Chinese products won't help. I think government interference should be essential. That governments, Islamic governments, should completely boycott any Chinese product. This will cripple. I don't mean like severely damage, because there is like I don't know, like 130 countries around the world that all can buy products from China, but this will definitely damage Chinese economy, and will push them say, you know what, if you keep committing genocide against the Uyghurs, we're gonna keep boycotting your products. And I think that's completely impossible with the current people we have in charge right now, because they're just tails for the West, they're tails for US, for Israel. They will not do that. Imran Khan, I think, is the closest one, and he was completely silent regarding this issue. He said he doesn't know anything about it, or he said that he has no knowledge of it, or he's doing it privately with Xi Jinping, the president of China. And so I think even though Imran Khan is the closest to authoritative figure among Islamic world to actually stand with Muslims, he's still not doing anything for it. So I think government is essential, but I think we live in a paradise. What I'm asking is we live in a fantasy. What I'm asking is come completely from fantasy, not from reality. That's what I'm thinking. That's basically what's my thought right now.
Jazakallah khair, brother.
Yeah, I think with a lot of these countries, there's a lot of things happening maybe behind the scenes. I don't know. Wallahi, sometimes I just think to myself, what's the reason they're quiet? It's you genuine, like being quiet. It is bad. It's not as bad as certain other countries who are outright advocating. Like full out advocating. But I just think genuinely, I think behind the scenes there is that pressure, man. I think there is some kind of pressure where they can't speak. They want to, they can't. And yes, it's easy for us to say, no, they should, etc. The only example that comes to my mind is the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where like just to assume the best in these governments, and obviously it annoys you, upsets you, but you just think to yourself, why they're not doing nothing? But if you look at Treaty of Hudaybiyah, what the Quraysh offered the Prophet, peace be upon him, and how the companions were enraged. Imagine you want to go Hajj, and you're being stopped. Not only stop you, the Quraysh who are wrong, they're giving you rules. You're not coming this year. On top of that, if anyone leaves Islam, you send them back to us. Anyone comes from here, you send them back. We torture them. It's crazy. It's like, wow, it doesn't make sense to you. And a lot of the Quraysh and a lot of the Sahaba were angry. Some of them, they didn't even listen to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Can you imagine that? So I think with these instances, sometimes we need to understand, maybe, yes, we're emotional, yes, they upset us, but there is a reason why these leaders are not talking. And if they're not talking based on, financial gains, or it might be that they have I don't know, that's why I'm very, very like double-minded, where, should we go for these leaders and be like, shame on you, or you're like, what, don't know what's going on. You're very double-minded with this matter, but what we can for sure know, that if we can do something about it, we should do it. We don't know their position, because they're in a different realm. They're in things maybe work in a whole different way. You don't know what kind of threats China could maybe be doing. We don't know, So the thing is, what we can do is obviously try our best to raise awareness to it somehow, and I think it's working. It's a big threat, like you said. I think brother Aslan said before about the image of the Chinese. Their image is very important. So for us to show this reality, you like it or not, and also one thing that we have advantage of is that, for example, different like United States, they do see China as a threat, and now America doesn't. I don't believe America really cares about what the people are going through, etc. And I think brother I am Imazadul Qadir just nodded, as you can see, mashallah, he expressed his feelings through his nodding. So they don't care, and I think what it could be, we can use that to our advantage, where we believe that America are going to take precautions slowly, and we need to use that. It's I'm not saying there's war, but war is strategy. If MI5 is watching this, I'm not saying, I'm just talking about strategy and metaphorically. Please, I know you guys listen to my phone as well. Say hello to everybody. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that that's coming because they're seeing that China is a threat. And I even heard that some people are, everything is made in China, and I think they are looking at alternative different methods to production. So what that could mean is that if we take advantage of that situation and put more pressure, you never know. If China realizes that pocket is going to get damaged really bad, and they would start to make changes. That's what it's about. Even recently with the whole that satanic, that satanic shoes they applied the blood in the shoe. Have you seen it?
Naz thing, yeah.
That whole little Naz, little shaitan, whatever it's called, yeah. It's in blood. Like you look at Nike sued him. Why did Nike sue him? Do you think Nike gives a damn? Nike sued him because Nike doesn't have that many Satan worshipper customers. Yeah, they have more Christian. So therefore, okay, if we don't sue this guy, we're going to lose our Christian base. Nike and these companies don't give a damn. They don't care. All they care about, even for them to support LGBTQT, whatever it is, it's just money. It's just basically, you are wherever money is. That's where you are. And if we can hit them in the pocket, that's where it will hurt. And I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
As long as the intentions are right, like going back to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah when that was happening. If you look at the situation at hand, you're in the Sahaba are looking at this. It's a lost situation, and there is nothing good can come out of this. We come to Hajj, we stop. There's these new legislations. So much so they even saying to Ali radiallahu anhu, don't write Rasulullah. We don't see Rasulullah. He's saying I'm not even gonna. So the situation at every angle of writing the contract to the one of the companions running away and then being sent back. The situation looks grim. From the outside, the situation is like this is chaos, and then Allah sends down Surah Fat. We have given you a clear victory. It's like, what clear victory? What clear? It's everything is. So the thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works in mysterious ways. You get what I'm trying to say? So we shouldn't, feel down, give up, even think like, what? Who are we? We're little few YouTubers. Wallahi, if you do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do care about your brothers and sisters. This few YouTubers, you guys, like I said before, I don't think I've done justice to this cause. I think there's more I can do, but you brothers, inshallah, what you guys are doing, and I can offer my platform whatever I can do. Carry on, inshallah, and you might see about couple of years down the line that you guys have a massive impact. So yeah, inshallah.
And the other thing I just wanted to add is, governments is obviously something that none of us have any say in. However, you're only accountable according to what you can do in your capacity.
Exactly.
Arsalan, I mean, you're just a citizen, right? However, there's been government responses to the work that you've been doing. I saw a really funny video where somebody was actually trying to discredit you, and he was this guy with this mask on, and they're targeting you as an individual, and like the people you've interacted with, like Sister Tursane, Sister Zumrat, Gulbahar, these people the Chinese Foreign Ministry has directly attacked. So obviously, if they're reacting, then the work that you guys are doing is having an impact. So if you can speak about, like, from a citizen point of view, in a way, yes, we would love Islamic governments to stand up and saying, hey, stop killing us. But, could you give your perspective on what we as citizens can achieve through our social media activism?
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't go into this, as even Brother Zishan mentioned at the beginning, like, what are we going to get? What sort of response are we going to get? And for the most part, like 90%, it's just going to be like crickets. You're not going to get much. But it's a build-up. It's building up pressure. So, for example, like, to even get to this stage, I mentioned this, right? Even just simply me and Supur connecting, that in itself just didn't happen like that. It was years of work to support to Google. He hears about the Uyghurs. He Googles what Uyghurs are, and then my channel comes up. You know what I mean? That didn't happen just randomly. It's years of work that takes to that level. So you do what you got to do. Don't go for the home run and go, I got to make Fulan king in this land react. No, you work in your circle, you work in your school, you work in your university, you work in your municipality, you work in your council, and eventually it'll build. So like we've seen new countries pop up, new sort of autonomous regions pop up around the world. That didn't happen overnight. It takes lots and lots of work. So alhamdulillah, look, we've got programs like StreamYard, we've got links to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Social media is more than just, putting up your favorite food or putting up a picture that you got vaccinated. It's actually, you can use it for so much good. And it's just a matter of you being able to voice it creatively, doing it in the right way, the legal way. And it's gotten to a point, Brother Ali right there, he was like sort of scared. But I, on my channel, openly pushed for Western military intervention. I've said this to, former advisors of the Trump administration. So there's nothing wrong with saying that today. Alhamdulillah, it's gotten to that level. We wouldn't be able to use this terminology, say 5 years ago. We'd be labeled as extremists, but we see that this is coming now. Like it's okay, like it's safe. And, many people are not just talking about it in closed closets. It's being brought up in parliaments and it's serious. And as you mentioned, they don't care about the Uyghurs, but they do care about Hong Kong. They do care about Taiwan. And hopefully something happens there where we can also benefit, inshallah. And I'm not ashamed or scared to say this at all.
Yeah. And just to add to that point that, Western governments, and I think we need to be very balanced. The Quran asks us to have justice. The Western governments, obviously, they're not all the same. Some of them, we could say, they knew about the Uyghur issue for years and they just stayed silent. And now, because other governments are speaking up, they're speaking up. However, there's something very important to keep in mind. The governments really and truly just care about their self-interest. And one of their self-interests is to keep their population happy. Now, the vast majority of Westerners are absolutely disgusted by the behavior of the Chinese Communist Party against the Uyghurs, and they genuinely have some sympathy and care for the Uyghurs. So even if, and this is one of the things the Chinese Communist Party officials try and say, well, who cares? Muslims shouldn't trust America because America went to the Middle East and did this and this. That's totally irrelevant because the genuine Americans who know about this, and in Europe and others, they were even protesting those actions, the Iraq War and other things. And now this doesn't mean, okay, so America did some actions in the past, therefore can I have a genocide, please?
No, exactly.
What kind of argument is that? It makes no sense.
You have to divorce the government from the individuals. In the UK, 1 million people came to protest against Iraq.
Yes.
1 million,
The biggest in history.
The biggest in history. 1 million people came to protest against Iraq. So that you have to differentiate between the leaders and the people, because that's what that's what they do to us. They look at one individual, ISIS, and they say you're all the same. We're not going to do the same. Our religion doesn't say you look at America and all the Americans are the same. We don't do that. So these are you can see that they're scared. You get it? You can see that they're scared. And I'll be honest with you, bro. Like I said to you before, like the ambassador to China, Aki, wallahi, I'm being honest, bro. If I know who he is, Aki, I'll confront him. Wallahi, uqsum billah. If I know what time is coming outside, bro, I'll be on his case. I'm being honest, brothers. I'm not trying to get hype or gas here. Yeah, I'm being honest. I'm that kind of guy, but I'll go confront you to your face. But I need to know my facts, of course. Yeah, I don't want to go there and the guy starts rinsing me. Yeah. So the thing is, as long as I know my facts, bro, I'll confront him. I'll wait for him to come outside, bro. I'll wait till him to come outside, and I'll confront him. You have to do that. And I'll just do it. And video will go viral. We'll call it. Muslim confronts China's ambassador. Yeah. People love to see that because that's the reason I do this kind of stuff, because it has impact. And the thing is, I like to tackle these issues head on rather than doing a video, in front of a camera. So these things, we have to do it. We need to go to these levels. And what am I doing? I'm intellectually. I'm not going to go punch him or something. I want to go intellectually have a discussion with him. Do you get it? So I think these are the things that we need to do. We shouldn't be shy with these things. And I believe the Chinese, they're probably listening to this. I'll be honest with you. I have no doubt.
Salam's here, they're listening.
They're listening. I'm telling you, I have no doubt. Yeah, they're listening to this. Yeah, I have no doubt about that, and I don't really care if you're listening to it. Yeah, okay. So it's very clear, and it's just to show that we're not going to stop. We've got Brother Mohammed. What's his name? Mohammed Habib.
Hadib, yeah.
Habib. Hadib.
Yeah.
Not Habib.
Habib.
Yeah.
I always get him.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about this brother, Ali? And
there's a lot of things interesting about him, mashallah.
He's Palestinian.
Yeah.
He's Palestinian, but he said in the previous live stream and in the past as well that if the Palestinians and with the oppression that's happening there, if the Uyghurs had the ability to transfer over, they would think it's a holiday.
100.
Although what's happening there is very bad.
Yeah. But at the minimum, at least they get to sleep at night in their own beds, bro. At least they get to sleep at night in their own homes. At least at the minimum, Ramadan is coming up, and I've been talking to them. They're going out shopping, getting ready for Ramadan. At least that's at the minimum, bro. That's at the minimum. And something that Brother Ali said in the beginning about Nike, for example. The point is that if Nike by itself, they really don't care about. I wouldn't say they don't care, but they don't pay attention to this issue. But why did Nike in the recent weeks? Why did they put sanctions, for example, on cotton coming from Xinjiang? Because it was their consumer base. Someone made a petition. Some students made a petition, gathered so many of their consumer base from the ages that they target, and they forced Nike. Nike thought, okay, if we don't put an end to this, we're going to lose so much of our consumer base, because one petition, one group of people were able to gather so much noise, and Nike was forced to put sanctions on cotton coming from Xinjiang. Same thing that happened in Canada, bro. Just recently, our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, he openly went out and said China must stop this genocide that they're committing against the Uyghurs, and he put sanctions on China. Why did that happen? Was it because Justin Trudeau all of a sudden, I'm not gonna talk, but was it just because all of a sudden he woke up this morning and he's like, oh, I need to fight for the Uyghurs? No, what happened was there was an issue between him and China. There were 2 Canadians imprisoned in China. China didn't want them to let go. So what did Justin Trudeau say? He said, okay, it's broken. Let me break it even farther. Exactly. So we can take advantage of this.
That's what I'm saying, because that's why I mentioned the whole American issue with like even TikTok. They were banning TikTok in
America.
Forget me, I got banned. They're banning TikTok in America because of the whole, and even 5G.
Hawaii.
They're thinking it's some kind of they're gonna spy, etc. So they see China as a threat already, and they know how dangerous they are. So we just take full advantage.
Well, they are a threat.
They are full advantage, of the situation, and I think that's what we need to do. These people don't care. So what they care about. So if I'm gonna go to somebody and say, oh, go to this business here, like you sell these Israeli dates, you go to them, Allah, why send Israeli dates? Oh, brother, this, that, I need to feed, etc. Is it okay? Let me do a video now exposing your supermarket. No, stop it now. Don't worry. Take all of it. Why? Because now it's public image. So he looks at what's going to affect him now. He's thinking, you know what? These days, how much did I pay? £300? Yeah, let me get rid of £300. It's going to cost me 30 grand if this guy.
Exactly. If it's safe.
So that's what it is, and that's what we need to capitalize on. Because sadly, I'm planning to do a video anyways about these whole dates, going into these shops and saying, look, don't buy these dates, and it has effect, bro. In America, you're not even allowed to boycott Israel. They know the impact that it has, bro. They know how the impact it has. We done a video with Musa a couple of years ago. Went to Tesco's. And we had to call it blood dates, We went, bro. Feds came to, one of our houses, I'll just say, and there was Zionists there, bro. Literal full-out Zionists. They were eating the dates in front of us like this, on purpose, They're lucky there was a camera there, because that date would have ended up in his throat, really costly. But the thing is, is that we need to do these kind of things, because it's it gets more attention. And I'm planning on doing one for Ramadan, go in and say, look, guys, these are Israeli dates. Don't buy these, And the thing is, Aki, these, and it hurts their pocket. Once couple of years ago in Ramadan, they were boycotting, and when I was talking about boycott, I was like quite impressed because the Muslims were boycotting Coca-Cola. I was like, bloody hell, man, that takes some sacrifice there, yeah. I stopped drinking a long time ago, yeah. But the thing is, like, and it was having a massive impact on Israel, bro. You look at the stuff, the financial, when you hit them in the pocket, it really hurts, and that's what you need to do, bro. You need to do.
Well, really, in this world, in this day and age, the economical things the economical things that you target. And subhanallah, even something that I heard someone say, like subhanallah, if we look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his mission began with, bro, it began with iqra, it began with read. That's what and it ended up after 23 years. It ended up all of Europe, bro. All of Europe was, and look where his mission began. It began with one word, iqra, which is read. So imagine us. We have all these social media platforms that we can be using, these petitions that we could be signing, this noise that we can be making. And inshallah, as Brother Aslan said, step by step, we didn't reach here out of nothing.
Yeah. Because I've dealt with doctors in the past. You don't want them to
over to I am Imam Zul Qadir.
Yes, I was gonna add that certainly one thing, especially once you realize a lot of these issues that or like the people that are in control of controlling the outcome of a lot of these things, they speak a very economic and financial language. And once you like realize that, you realize where the true power lies, which is in the hands of the masses, which is in the hands of the people. And so I think that goes back to another thing why, it's not enough just to kind of depend on your elected leaders or to just get in the mindset of, oh, as an individual, I can't do anything. Yes, if you rally around people that, are on that same wavelength, are willing to commit to that same path, there's a lot of influence that can be had and a lot of like dramatic changes that can be brought upon.
Exactly, 100%. And look how many universities now are starting to get on board. Look how many companies are starting to get on board. Look how many governments are starting to get on board. Bro, like if we look back 5 months ago
to the
stage that we reached up to now, subhanallah, all because of all because a couple of hundred of us came together, started making noise around social media, starting this thing up, and now we literally have, bro, universities that are talking to their students about this stuff. We have governments coming out. We have companies, big time companies, Nike, coming out doing all this. And
this stuff, Aki. You know what? Like even like I said before, even if like Nike doesn't, bro, I'm telling you, bro. You go into Nike, you get these banners, what they're going through. You know what the trainers are, you hang them on top of the trainers, brother. Yeah, I'm telling you, Aki. I'm telling you, I'm being honest. Give me the ideas, bro. I'll go. I'm not doing anything illegal, but I go to JD Sports with a camera. I put my camera there. I put that thing up. And I just raise awareness, bro. No one can say nothing to me. Security comes, that's drama, brother. That's good. To the camera, and then that you need to. This is what I'm telling you, brothers. Trust me. Boom, you put that out there. I'll call it bloody JD China experiment, brother. Yeah, and I'll do a nice click thumbnail or halal clickbait. Yeah, and they go viral. You do this stuff because what happens is then you're catching the attention because Nike, JD Sports here, for example, or like Nike, they're known. A lot of like roadman here, like brothers, men, on the roads, etc. They like following this stuff. Okay, that's interesting. If I can get your attention by walking into JD Sports or Nike with a banner and I'm doing a video and you're going to watch that, that's good for me because now you're aware of it. You're aware of it. You might have just watched it out of curiosity, but now you're aware of it. You being aware is amazing for me. You watch it once, that's brilliant. You know about Uyghur, what's this Uyghur? What you're going to do now is go on Google, search Uyghur. But that's good for me because that means recommendations is high. Everyone's looking at Uyghur. So this is what we need to use
and it has a big impact. I just wanted to bring in the other guests as well because there's a few people been waiting.
I'm here.
So we have Brother M. Welcome to the live on Defending the Uyghurs. Let us know your thoughts on what you've been hearing so far.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, we can.
I tried to come in your previous stream, but for some reason my mic wasn't working. So now I fixed that. Basically, I'm basically a Pakistani living in Pakistan since my childhood. So if I see I've tried contacting many universities for this issue, all Pakistani universities and top-notch universities, which I could message, all the societies of IBA, LUMS, and NUST, and all the big universities here. And I just got one response from the Islamic Society of one of the universities, and it just said that we have our events internally, so we can't, sublet our events or do something like that. So that was very unfortunate. But I would just like to point out the importance that Pakistan has in this issue. Basically, if you just search upon it a bit, Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he's basically said that we deal with our issues internally with China, right? And in one video, he said, I don't even know what's happening with the Uyghurs. So basically, I think we need to raise awareness in Pakistan, because if we're talking about economy here and all hitting the pockets of the Chinese and stuff like that. So basically, I think that the most important project that is to China right now is the Belt and Road Initiative. And that's starting with China. And I think the Uyghur situation has a big role in the Belt and Road Initiative, because if you see the patch of the Xinjiang in China, if I could just I would share my screen, but you can Google it and see that Xinjiang is basically blocking China from entering Pakistan. And Xinjiang, a few years ago, there were many, obviously, there were many uprisings over there, and there were many freedom movements and stuff like that. So basically, China is just trying to neutralize Xinjiang, because if Xinjiang is present and if there is revolution in Xinjiang, or if there are uprisings, it basically disturbs the sanctity of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Because it's not just from Pakistan. It starts from Pakistan, and then, obviously China has done deals with Iran and all of the countries on this belt. So basically, I think that if you want to do something solid and on ground, I think the best locality to be in is Pakistan, and to start from there. So basically, I've even studied some of what Pakistanis are thinking on this. I'll just share a link in the private chat box for people to see. There is a very popular.
Okay, so this is where John.
Shall I? Yeah, that video that you shared. Yep.
Yeah, there's a very popular YouTuber in Pakistan who just does these podcasts, and I saw one of his podcasts on the Uyghurs, which was like he had a segment on the Uyghurs, and the person who he had invited was basically political science buff sort of person. So he basically said, it's all, and this is a very popular thought in Pakistan, that this is all a conspiracy by the UK and the US and against China. Because, if you, this makes some sort of sense, because the UK and US have obviously their interests against China. And the only agency which is really reporting this a lot is the BBC, right? Which we know is, with state-owned and stuff like that. So, I prepared a whole draft of evidences for that. But I think the most important thing to do right now is to make people aware of evidence and like clarity of thought in this matter, that, this is happening with the Uyghurs and stuff like that. Because people from Pakistan, especially the elite classes, and the people who are not religious, they're just like, why aren't we speaking the same way for Syria or Somalia or stuff like that, where obviously this stuff is happening? Because Pakistan has had an economic initiative has not had an economic initiative like this for the past many years, right? So basically, people are they're very excited for this to happen. But if I just point out some of the things which I thought out on, which would happen certainly if the CCP enters Pakistan, is basically, which already has started a bit, which is intermarriages between China and Pakistan. The women here are very eager to go to China and get married and stuff like that. So I think that is one of the reasons. And there was this person in Pakistan who was working to bring the Uyghurs back to Pakistan. I had this, someone told me this, that they had this internal news that all the Uyghurs that came to Pakistan were, each one of them was made to go back to China. And that person, his video is even available on Vice, that the military and the establishment was bugging him, so he had to leave Pakistan. So I think that the front in which we have to work is Pakistan, but even for me, you know, it's a very dangerous thing, because there are many agencies working to create unrest through this. For example, the BLT, the Balochistan Liberation Party, India, and people like that. There was a very interesting statement in the podcast I've just shared. He said, and this is a very, you know, valid position that I think people can have, although it's not right, but basically it's a valid concern. The person said that the US and the UK wants brown people to fight their fight, because their race is, their people and their race is too valuable for them, so they want to have, like, for example, a proxy war like in Afghanistan and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a very valid concern, and we have to address this like that. And a very intellectual, procedure has to be done in order to address issues and concerns like that.
There's a few things you raised, and I really wanted to not lose track of them, because I think they were very important to highlight. So the first thing is, we have to frame this argument in a way that's going to be palatable to the Pakistani audience. And the one thing that you said, which is absolutely true, is that most people in Pakistan have no idea what's going on. And also, they have this very powerful sort of counter propaganda from China is working. So, for example, the Pakistani ambassador to China, he had this this narration of the Prophet, peace be upon him, on his Twitter. But this narration, I've not found it in any book. There's no evidence it's true, which is gain knowledge even if you have to go to China. I mean, but this is like, yeah. But the other thing to keep in mind is that, you see, Pakistan is very important for the Belt and Road Initiative, but in a way that's kind of irrelevant. Yeah, that's kind of irrelevant. So 10 years ago, April 2011, I still remember, that's the first time a friend here in London spoke to me about the Uyghur issue. He was a Uyghur himself. Since then, I lost contact with him. But the Belt and Road only started like 2016. So the whole cause of independence goes back, to the 18th century. It goes back to when the Manchu Empire conquered them, and then they later on got independence. And so it's irrelevant, the Belt and Road Initiative, from that perspective. But now it's important because of its strategic importance. The main thing that we need to do when it comes to Pakistan is we need to be able to articulate the Uyghur cause in a way that doesn't alienate anybody in power in Pakistan. Because essentially, if you look at it, the creation of Pakistan, and you know this because you were brought up there, you went through all of the textbooks. Who do they say is the first Pakistani, right? They say it's Muhammad bin Qasim, and he wasn't somebody that was born in the 20th century. He is from the time of the Umayyads. So why do they call Muhammad bin Qasim the first Pakistani, although he was, 1200 years ago? Because Pakistanis are defined by religion, not defined by ethnic makeup, right? There's many different ethnic makeups there. The argument that we need to make in terms of the Pakistani community is we're not getting involved in any geopolitical battles. We're not getting involved in any proxy wars. We are simply asserting, just like Kashmir is an independent Muslim land, which is important for us, Kashgar is just as important as Kashmir, so is Hotan, so is Urumqi, so is East Turkestan. Pakistan has no border with China. We only have a border with East Turkestan. We need to frame this as an independence movement free of foreign interference, nothing to with foreign interference. Also, what I would say is that your activism that you're doing, and there's others who I'm aware of, they're doing activism in different places in Pakistan, and alhamdulillah, I'm now starting to see there's actually a lot more people than I initially thought. The worry I have is that you might be taking a few steps which are the difficult steps, and missing out the easy steps, and the difficult steps can put you into danger. So for example, when you're contacting universities, like you said, NUST is actually a military university, right? It's not the right university to contact, and nor is the other universities, because most universities are linked to the government or this type of thing. So what I would do if I was in Pakistan is, you would create awareness without being publicly active in a way that your identity is revealed. So you would talk to people one-to-one, talk to your family. Everybody has an extended, I mean, in Pakistan there's this big thing about everybody knows at least 1,000 people, right? We have like second, third, fifth cousins. Everybody has this thing called Bradri. I'm sure you have one as well, like this sort of lineage, this tribal thing. So you speak to people one-to-one. What we need to wait for is somebody really popular in Pakistan who's got millions of followers and subscribers to come out publicly and speak about the Uyghur issue. When they do that, and then when average people like you stand up, you're fine then. But until that happens, because there's complete silence, even from the celebrities, even from the religious clergy, everyone is dead silent. Somebody speaking up, you're just going to get targeted. So what we really need to do is we need to wait for somebody, and maybe you can contact somebody who is known. Right?
There's a very popular person in Pakistan. I think you would even know him. His name is, should I say his name? He's basically.
I don't think you should say his name, but yeah.
I write it in the private chat.
But
he's a very big activist in Pakistan, right? So I tried contacting him, but there wasn't a response. And basically, like you said, the Pakistanis are basically disillusioned about the whole issue. The people in, if you talk to the people, they basically, even in the podcast that I've shared, the person shares the details that Pakistani teams have went to Uyghur, they saw everything and everything was fine.
Yeah,
I don't know why they've gotten this narrative from. Yeah, this is a very popular narrative that Pakistani teams from the government went to see the Uyghur camps, and it was nothing there. And people are even saying, they're just showing these buildings. China has many buildings, so there's even that level of stuff. And I pointed to that person. I was pointing out that even the Chinese ambassadors are not outrightly rejecting that there is reformative action going on, and these buildings are teaching them skills, and they are reforming the extremists. They basically said this multiple times that we have controlled extremism in China, and we have reformed some of the extremists and stuff like that, in these camps, and we're teaching them skills and stuff like that.
Yeah, the thing is, the brother you.
No, I have a quick question. What is the potential of social media in Pakistan? Like I know at least in the US and UK, like we have a lot of our movements, or a lot of like the changes that come about in the general population, they first start off within the social media world. But I'm not familiar with how things work in Pakistan. So, Brother M, if from your experience, or at least what you've seen, what is the potential of social media being used as a platform to increase awareness amongst the general population, and also maybe to even lead up to other measures?
I think one of the most important social media application in Pakistan is WhatsApp. So the most shares you would get in Pakistan is basically these viral videos, which has this forwarded many times tag on them. So I think that is the way to go about, and to convince the general public, because everybody in Pakistan knows Urdu, right? So I think the way to convince the general public is not in the English language. It is basically in Urdu, which obviously you people can manage. And that's the way to go, really.
Yeah, even though, I mean, I do agree with you that Urdu language has a big role to play. However, a lot of people in Pakistan, amongst the intellectual elite, they understand English. The problem is the counter narrative is very powerful. That's the real issue. Like this video that I don't want to share and give these people more publicity, but these types of publicity stunts where they bring on someone who's an expert, who tries to basically reframe the whole thing as no, the Uyghurs are the happiest Muslims, and those buildings aren't really those buildings, or whatever the nonsense they come out with. The main thing that we need to do is we basically need to use the whole idea of freedom, right? Because remember, that's the whole concept of Pakistan is about being free from Hindu rule, right? And we have a lot of, what's the most popular drama in Pakistan right now? Right? It's Ertugrul, right? And in fact, in the history of Pakistani drama, the most popular that ever existed is the Turkish series Ertugrul, which has been dubbed in Urdu. What we simply need to do is use that narrative. You love Ertugrul Ghazi? Guess what? He was from Turkestan. And Turkestan, this is what's happening in Turkestan. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to basically, because even Imran Khan himself promotes Ertugrul, yeah? And it's I've seen some online videos of some Pakistani vloggers who've gone to Turkey. They've gone to the grave of Ertugrul and the other Turgut and all these other guys, and they're getting so many views. We don't need to, like, what I'm trying to say is we don't need to antagonize anybody, because that's going to cause issues. All we need to do is the energy that's already there, the love that the Pakistanis have for, Turkish things and Ertugrul and the idea of freedom and Kashmir and all of these things, just fit the Uyghur narrative within that, so that avalanche which is going ahead, we just sort of ride that marketing wave. And Ali knows what that's about, right? You ride that marketing wave rather than us trying to get a snowball going to become an avalanche. Just use those existing currents. And this is why I've been very careful in terms of my activism in terms of the Uyghur issue, simply because I don't want to antagonize other people in Pakistan. I want to make sure that this issue, once it takes off, because in Pakistan, when a trend takes off, it takes off. Like, for example, when it comes to the issue of Palestine, the protests that happen in Pakistan, the mass numbers that you see, I don't think you see them in any Arab country. I don't think you even see them in Iran, although Iran tries to portray itself as a protector of the Palestinians. Because once one issue takes off, like if you remember during the 2014 Gaza attack, just how large the protests were in Karachi and Lahore and Islamabad. So it's only going to take a few triggers, and you'll have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Pakistanis waving the Uyghur flag, waving the flag of East Turkestan. It's not going to take much, but we just need to be very careful how it begins. This is why I'm saying contacting universities and stuff like that. That's not the way. It's mainly through social media, and maybe you can develop some stuff in Urdu, but obviously you don't use your voice. You need to do it.
I think you should develop some stuff in Urdu on your channel, especially. And we can convert those to WhatsApp videos and we can send them and stuff like that. But as you mentioned Ertugrul, and basically Ertugrul is seen by not the intellectual elites. They're just watching Netflix over there. And I would like to point this out, that the intellectual elite, in my opinion, do not want anything to do with the Uyghurs, for the reason that, as I said, all they want is economic benefits that Pakistan is having after a high time. So I think that we should not target the intellectual elite. We should target some of the people who basically even there must be Pakistanis over here. Pakistanis are very emotional people, right? So if you want to target Pakistanis, there should be these intellectual dialogues, obviously, but there should also be some emotional videos. And the Pakistanis, like, for example, if you would be aware of there is a party in Pakistan that always gets out on the blasphemy of the Prophet. And
yes.
The person who was leading it has recently died.
Imagine if that party found out that the Chinese government...
I was trying to contact that party. I found a person who was directly linked to the party, but somehow I couldn't do something about it. But if people people basically over here, they basically have these posters. Like, for example, that party has these posters which they have on like roadsides and behind taxis and trucks and stuff like that. That is the way to awareness in Pakistan. And basically, they just have these speeches that are viral on social media, and then people go to these events and stuff like that. So I think that one of maybe Pakistan also needs someone to lead the cause. They need to be united behind a person, and they would want that person to be obviously have orative skills and stuff like that, but they would basically want that person to convey the message to them as emotionally and as of their liking as possible. Because obviously in these protests you would hardly find someone of the elite class and stuff like that. They're all of the people are like middle and low class people who just someone has told them this is happening, and they're like, okay, like let's go to the protest and stuff like that. So we need to get a message across to them.
Brother
Right?
I think one principle that you're hitting on, and I think you're absolutely right, is I think for the time being, don't depend too much on the intellectual elite, because as you said, their agenda is different, their incentives are different, the language they speak is different. But I think because I think even you as an individual, as a common man, you have a big role to play. Like for example, the Subur was saying Artugrul, but another thing that comes to mind is Allama Iqbal. I'm an Indian, but I know how influential Allama Iqbal is to Pakistani people, and even I extract so many lessons reading his poetry. But I think tying the Uyghur narrative to Pakistan's history, to Allama Iqbal's work, I think that will find a lot of find a home within the hearts of the common people. And I think that would be definitely a way to go about it, because like Subur was saying, just the social political climate that exists within countries like Pakistan right now, just because of how the leadership is tied with the Chinese leadership, it wouldn't be wise to do the same strategies that our communities here in the US and UK are trying to do, right? The freedoms that people have are different. Yeah. The liberties and opportunities that people have are different. It's important to know that. And it's, again, as I'm making that point, it's important to highlight that no contribution towards this cause is bigger or smaller than the other. At this point, we don't have time to think about that. Everything matters. So, even if you go ahead, you as an individual make a quick poster, you write an Allama Iqbal poem and you connect it with the Uyghur cause, you just post it at a local shop down the street, that counts. Someone will see that, and a common person now has knowledge about the issue. Because as you were mentioning, a big problem is that the media itself, they won't cover accurately what's happening with the issue, right? But alhamdulillah, we have people like you that are taking the time out of their busy days to come and attend things like this. So that in itself is a start, but inshallah, we need people like you to continue the charge and to address the common people. Forget the intellectual elites. They'll come around when their time is necessary. But I think if you focus on the common man, I think you'll get very far, inshallah.
Yeah, and definitely. And sorry to just disagree with you slightly on one thing, Imazul. You're totally right on the narrative on Allama Iqbal, but what I would say is getting a poster or putting it somewhere, I mean, you might just disappear, right? So,
okay, fair enough.
Anybody who's in Pakistan right now, what I would say, because I get loads of messages from Pakistanis, I tell them, don't do anything, right? Social media sharing posts, no one cares, right? Physically, a poster or contacting university, don't do it. What we need to do is essentially, hopefully, inshallah, a Pakistani scholar or even actually many Pakistani follow some popular Indian social media personalities. Something in Urdu goes viral, then there's this entire uproar, and in that uproar, if you're organizing stuff, if you're getting stuff done, no one's going to notice an ant during a hurricane. Yeah, but right now, if you do something, you'll be highlighted like a pink elephant, and there'll be a missile headed towards you. Yeah, so as a neighbor to Pakistan, East Turkestan is Pakistan's neighbor. What do you expect from Pakistanis?
I mean, the obvious is support, but then again, as you mentioned, the political climate doesn't allow them to do so. But I will tell you one thing: there is this big thing, as you mentioned, Pakistanis see themselves more as Muslim than as ethnically Pakistani. And I saw a clip. You guys were talking about the the people who were denigrating the Prophet ﷺ or the Quran, and they were being beaten. And so Islam is a huge thing, and so they always try and block that information. And this reminds me of an interview I had, because I always get caught up by Indian media, right? And you know how sometimes some of their shows, they got 6-7 people on, and this time round I was on, but there were also 2 Pakistani guests on an Indian news show.
Interesting.
And I was on because of the time where on Chinese television, they had an image of the Prophet ﷺ on Chinese television. Yeah. And basically the Pakistani intellectuals, they had to reject that was not happening. That's the only way they could get out of it. I was like, yeah, it is happening.
Yes,
so
yes.
once we keep on showing the narrative, China is the enemy, or the CCP is the enemy of Allah and His Prophet constantly with evidence, then there'll be major uprisings. I saw protests in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. I saw images over there. So it's different over there. Obviously, I'm not trying to compare the countries, but politically, the people have to get so uproar that they have to force the government to make a move, because Imran Khan always saying, like, being like Erdogan, pretending to be like a leader of the Muslims. No way, they're not at that level. But so the people, we want to see, because another dangerous thing is, right, if we prove that the CCP is the enemy of Allah and His Prophet, I'm scared that Chinese people are just going to be beaten willy-nilly on the streets of Pakistan, because there's so many Chinese people out there now as well. So there has to be balance, because then it could work the other way as well. But khair, yani, what can you do? We just make dua. What can we say?
And something that I think is very important to highlight here is that the Chinese people themselves are the first victims of the Chinese Communist Party. And that's a nuance that I'm glad you raised, because, I was listening to an interview today, and this was just some Western academics discussing this topic. And this is exactly what the woman said. I've forgotten her name, but, she said, the worst thing we could do is alienate these people who are dissidents, who hate the Chinese Communist Party, whose family suffered through the Cultural Revolution. There's this Chinese Miss Canada. I don't know what she is, right? Maybe Muhammad Habib, you've heard of her. So she was born in China. She was a model. She went over to Canada. She used to defend China. And now she's a vocal critic of the Chinese Communist Party, when initially she was like, a very important person, right? From the perspective that, well, if she didn't turn against them, she was like Miss Canada or something, right? She won some beauty contest. And now she's actively defending the Uyghurs, defending the Tibetans, defending the Mongolians, speaking about the genocide, speaking about the cultural, all this stuff. She was actually in a debate at the Oxford Union just before the lockdown, in which she was openly, I have not seen any Chinese person be so vocal in their hatred of the Chinese Communist Party. And that's something that we need to highlight as well, that we're not against China. We don't hate Chinese people, but the Chinese Communist Party, which has brainwashed, sadly, a lot of Chinese people, they are like you said, they are literally declaring a war on Islam, and they are enemies of Allah and His Messenger. Like that narrative is very, very important. Sorry, Muhammad, Muhammad Habib, I didn't get you to speak for a while. I think you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that's 100%. Even some of the people that emailed us, they were saying, oh, should we do an uprising against our Chinese students at this university? I'm like, no, that's not the way to go. What are we doing here? These Chinese people could be literally your allies. They could be the allies that will stand beside you once you explain that, okay, this is what the CCP is doing against the Uyghurs, and any rationally sane human being with any functioning heart would definitely condemn what is happening to the Uyghurs. And as you said, bro, I'm not sure, I don't recall it, but I think I've heard something to the lines of the Miss Canada thing and all that stuff. And yeah, subhanallah, so even that's a wonderful example that you gave of how someone that was so linked to the government, at the end, once she realized these atrocities, she got up and she started speaking up about what's happening to the Uyghurs and about the atrocities that the CCP committed in the past against their own people as well.
Yeah. I'd like to bring in the Samira Owadi. Welcome to the live. Sorry to keep you waiting for a while. Let us know your thoughts on what you've been hearing so far.
I think she is muted.
Okay. We're going to, inshallah, end the live stream in about a couple of minutes. So I don't think we're going to be bringing on other guests, although today's live is actually doing a lot better than last week in terms of numbers as well. So I think doing this on a regular basis, Allah says He loves the deeds which are consistent, even if they're small. The other thing which I wanted to do is, I wanted everyone to watching. I mean, alhamdulillah, there's some 120 people watching. There's a beautiful narration of the Prophet ﷺ, which I'm going to paraphrase, which is that Allah is basically in your aid when you're in the aid of your brother, right? And if you basically take care of a believer's hardship, Allah will take care of your hardship. So when we're talking and discussing these ideas, we're on this live stream for say 2 hours, people are watching, you're in the comment section, we're discussing stuff. You're in aid of your brother, and you're in aid of your sister, and you're in aid of the Muslims, and this could be for you a great act of ibadah, which on the day of judgment, and you're thinking, well, where did this hasanat come from? This is the fikr, the worry that you had, inshallah, right? This is the worry that you had for others, because, really and truly, we sometimes think, oh, we're just discussing stuff, we're just doing this, we're doing that. Like, I'm honestly saying this, I'm not saying this to just inspire people. These types of things that we're doing, if the people in the concentration camp saw that there's people out there, young people like Muhammad Habib, like Imazul, people who are studying, but they're spending their time, and other people watching who are doing this, I swear, I believe they will cry out of joy and happiness that there's people out there who care about us. And number two, Allah is in the aid of these students who, like Brother Imazul, he has exams for his medical degree to complete in the next couple of weeks, yet he's here on this live stream. Allah is going to be in the aid of people like him, people who are watching, because ultimately, these narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, these aren't just metaphysical ideas, abstract ideas. These are truth. These are absolute realities. And speaking the word of truth against a tyrannical ruler is what? Is jihad. And we're not talking about physically going out and fighting, but what are we dealing with? We're dealing with a modern day Pharaoh. We're dealing with a modern day Abu Jahl, Xi Jinping and the Communist Party. We're dealing with people who want to exterminate Islam. And I don't think anybody should be in any illusion that, oh, it's just about the Uyghurs, right? Once these people break through Islam's eastern fortress, which is East Turkestan, they're going to do the same thing all across the Muslim world. And there's no doubt about this, right? This whole narrative that the Chinese Communist Party doesn't want to expand and doesn't want to take, it's an internal issue. They have a plan for world domination. There's a book called Unrestricted Warfare. Maybe Arsalan knows some other books which the Chinese Communist Party officials have themselves put out. They believe in the Chinese century. It's not just about China. They see the 21st century as a century of retribution when the previous century was a century of humiliation. And they're not going to, stop at just the oppression in East Turkestan. They're going to take it all across the Muslim world.
Oh, well. Yeah. And subhanAllah, the hadith you mentioned as well, one that I mentioned last week in Sahih Bukhari by Ibn Saud, where the Prophet said he was outlining the seven best deeds that are most beloved to Allah in one narration, and in it was actually speaking out against oppression. It was on the list. So as Brother Sabur said, everyone watching, everyone that's joining, everyone who filled out the volunteer forms, everyone who sent out the emails, anyone that's doing anything, signing petitions, inshallah, you will be seeing this on your scale at the Day of Judgment. And inshallah, it'll be an honor on your resume and standing in front of Allah at that time. inshallah.
But there's just one more point on social media posts and impact. There's a social media platform called LinkedIn, where it's a platform for professionals and a lot of companies on there. So I think if maybe that's a platform to explore a bit more in terms of articles and sharing social media posts on that professional networking platform, because companies are on there and that's got a lot of scope to directly impact reputation of organizations, companies, and potentially even governments as well. So I just thought I'd put that out there.
No, Jazakallah khair, because I also received a couple of emails of people also recommending the same thing, and they actually found some profiles on there of Chinese people that were actually against what the CCP is doing to the Uyghurs, and they were telling us to, inshallah, if we can contact them later on, so they could also be of benefit, and they're graduates of like some big universities, Queen Mary University, all that stuff, so they can, inshallah, they could be of aid as well. So inshallah, we'll be looking at that as well. Yeah. Is there one? I think Samira wanted to say something. If she unmutes herself.
Yeah, Sister Samira, if you're listening, you've muted yourself, so we can't hear you. So if you're there you go. Yeah, okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
All right, Sister, you're right.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's about the volunteer work we've been encouraged to do with on the website ufo.ngo. I'm 14, so I don't go to university, and I've seen other people ask these questions on some of your videos on YouTube, and they're just wondering if there's anything we can do, because, as you know, we don't go to university. So yeah.
So I'm gonna let Mazel expand on this as well. But from what I've seen, I've also received emails as well. People saying, "Oh, I'm not affiliated to an institution. I'm not affiliated to a college or university. What can I do?" And what I've shared with them is I shared with them a couple of steps, about 4 steps. One of them was to go around sharing and signing petitions, spreading the news. For example, on this channel, there's so many good interviews our brother Sabur and Arsalan done with Uyghur sisters that have escaped, and Uyghur brothers that have escaped the concentration camps, and they're coming out and telling us their stories. One with Dr. Burhan, inspirational one with Sister Tirsane, where they go ahead. So there's so many resources that you can share on your social media platforms, if you have any, with family members, and that will go a long way, inshallah. And as Arsalan said in the beginning, little steps will lead to one brick at a time. Eventually, we'll build a building. But I don't know if Imazo wants to expand on anything else that you can do, inshallah.
No, you're absolutely right, Muhammad.
Universities can open schools as well.
Samir, are you in the US or UK?
No, I live in Sweden.
Okay. I'm not sure how the schooling system is set up there, but I'm sure it's quite similar to what we have here. But I know in high school, at least, or even junior high, there's a lot of student clubs that exist at that level too, and like UNICEF, Amnesty International, things of that nature. Do you have something like that at your school?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, do students have the ability to form clubs at their school or no?
Yes, we're allowed to do that.
Okay, so that would be a start. I would recommend, in addition to what Muhammad was saying, that if you can find, even if it's like 5 to 6 people, other students that are willing to, sign up for this cause and they care about it, you can just form a club at your school. And literally the purpose of your organization can be to increase the awareness. So, you can watch the interviews that people like Arsalan and Sabur do, or you can look at the documents that are being released by organizations like the Uyghur Human Rights Project, and, share that information with the rest of the student body, hold events, hold bake sales or little talks to kind of spread the awareness, because, even though you're not at the university level, this is certainly something you can get started on.
I don't know if this would, Amazo, if you can give me an idea on this, and the sister as well. But I don't know if she can see, because you know how we have a list of Chinese companies that we've been sending out to people that are affiliated or are complicit with the CCP. I'm sure it doesn't matter whether it's a university or college or a elementary school, but I think I can send that list over to the sister, and she could see if her school is affiliated with anything. Maybe even security cameras. Maybe she got her security. Maybe her school got security cameras from Huawei or any other company. And inshallah, sister, if you do find a link between your school, it doesn't matter, university, college, elementary school, it doesn't matter. What you can do, so I'll be sending you those companies' name. If you do find a link, all you have to do is just search up your school's name alongside one of the companies, and if you do find a link between them, email us immediately, and I'll give you the next steps of how to start a divestment campaign, even if it's a small one, even if it's a small scale one, where you just go to your principal, for example, and you have a chat with him, sit down, have a chat, tell him, excuse me, Mr. So-and-so, I found a link between our school and, for example, Huawei and their security cameras. We get our security cameras from them, and then you explain to them, and you explain to him how Huawei is complicit in the Uyghur genocide, and then from there you can get the talk going as well. So I'll be sending you the list as well, inshallah, on email. If you could just leave your email in the private chat, I'll send you the list.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
it would also be great if you could get content done in Sweden, or if you could share the Swedish content on this already done.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So the other thing is, you know, at your age, definitely speaking to it about your friends, your family on social media, because young people, they have a different lane in terms of social media. So they wouldn't even be on YouTube that much. It'd be like Discord, you know, Instagram, you know, Twitch. So use those platforms to highlight, you know, make little clips, even changing your profile like you've done, mashallah, the Save Uyghur. You know, look, you know, I learned this from, you know, a really good Islamic, you know, scholar once, that if you pick up a pen for the sake of Allah, if you do a small act for the sake of Allah, Allah is the appreciative. He's not going to forget it. Allah will not forget. If you just pick up something for the sake of Allah, if you're sending an email for the sake of Allah, if you're doing something like this, Allah will not forget it. And two, we're not just sending off an email about some random issue. We're trying to save people's lives, their dignity, their Islam, their lineage, and their livelihood. What could be greater than that? You know, after, according to some scholars, after the worship of Allah, after the direct call to the worship of Allah, stopping oppression, according to some, that's like the next thing, right? So, you know, we really have to think of these things in a very deep and profound way. We've gone over our time, and I'm aware that, you know, what's it called? I want to try and make this consistent, but just not make it too difficult for everybody who's joining us. So we can end there, inshallah. Is there anything anybody wants to add to the panel before we end?
Yeah, I just had one question, Brother Sabur.
Sure.
I believe a couple of weeks ago you said that on the website ufo.ngo you'll be putting up the files of the masks.
Yes.
I've been waiting for them.
Yeah, not the files for the mask, the files for the t-shirts, but you can put them on the mask as well. You could just contact a company and put them on. It's something which I just keep forgetting to do, but inshallah, I'm going to speak to our IT guy on Monday, and I'll get that done. Inshallah, I'm not going to forget this time. But that's something that I want to email out to all of our mailing list as well, so they can print out the t-shirt and stuff, inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
I'd also like to add that if any of the students that are present in today's live session, if you haven't already got in contact with either Muhammad Sabur or me, please go ahead and send us an email. You know, I'd be more than happy to work with anyone to kind of help them organize on their individual campuses, because the more coordinated effort that we can have, the better it will be. And I'm not sure how to best share my email on here. Should I just change my name to my email?
What you could do is you could write, you could post it as a comment, and I could highlight it to everybody.
Okay.
So, Boo, what would you think that, as Sister Samira has pointed out, it just, popped in my mind that the more the languages we get involved in this issue, the more this has the variety of people who can, address this issue and stuff like that. So I think, we should also, what are your thoughts on this? That I think we should also have people, having this material available in multiple languages, even if it's, like just articles or just voice clips behind, these images or stuff like that.
Yeah, I would definitely ask whoever's watching, do it, and it doesn't need to be something fancy. It could be something simple. Even in the Urdu language, something as simple as taking the Uyghur Human Rights Project website and taking an article, reading it out in Urdu, and you don't need to show your face, and you could just post that online. As long as you do it in an anonymous way. There's loads of ways that you can definitely do it. And language does matter a lot, because not everybody is obviously speaking English. So let's end there, guys, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Arsalan, Imazul, Muhammad Habib, and I'll definitely get Ali to come in again as well, because mashallah, he always has some great ideas as well. So yeah, from all of us, assalamu alaikum, and until next time. Hopefully you've learned enough today that you can take some actions, and next week we'd love to hear from you, just like we did from Brother Zishan, and to see the progress in terms of ending this oppression against our Uyghur brothers and sisters in Islam. Assalamu alaikum.